What's going on, sports fans? It's your boy, the sports reporter I'll pay, coming at you with a hot take. And listen, I gotta go and get this off my chest, man. We got to talk about Carmelo Anthony. I did a post on my timeline and I asked people, when it's all said and done, where would you rank Carmelo Anthony all time? And the general consensus came out to be about a top 10 small forward, and then somewhere between 35 and 50-ish all time. But we're gonna kind of dive into that. So when we look at Carmelo Anthony, we know he just recently jumped into the top 10 all-time scoring. But when you compare him to those guys, we quickly find out that his resume just don't match up to the rest of those guys. Like, and nobody's saying he's those guys, but like, he's top 10 all-time scoring, and that's gonna be his claim to fame. But he is the definition of empty stats. You look at this list. Carmelo Anthony's the only guy on the top 10 all-time scoring without an MVP. Kareem has 5 or 6 MVPs. Carmelo has 2. LeBron has 4. Kobe has 1. Mike has 6. Dirk has 1. Wilt has, I think, 3 or 4. Shaq has 1. Moses has 3. And then there's Carmelo Anthony. What else do we notice about this list? Everybody on this list, with the exception of Carmelo, is a champion. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 6-time champ. Karl Malone, no rings but been to 2 finals. LeBron, a 4-time champ. Kobe, a 5-time champ. Jordan's a 6-time champ. Dirk got a ring and a finals MVP. Wilt got 2 rings. Shaq got 4 rings. Moses got a ring and a finals MVP. And then there's Carmelo Anthony. He's also the only guy on this top 10 list that does not have a single All-NBA first team. He's been All-NBA 6 times in his career, never been All-NBA first team. 16, 17 years in the league, never All-NBA first team. That's just insane to me for a guy that's top 10 all-time scoring. Again, empty buckets. And then people saying he's a top 50 all-time player. Is he really? I am in no way, shape, or form saying that the initial NBA 50 greatest players is like the end-all, be-all, right? But let's just use it as a baseline. Like, they always say, like, oh, this guy was snubbed for this and this guy was snubbed for that. And I always tell people, if you're going to say he's snubbed, if you want to put somebody in, you got to take somebody else out. So if we're going to say that Carmelo Anthony is a top 50 all-time player, let's use this as a baseline. And then we have to consider 2 guys that didn't make it, like Dominique Wilkins and Bob McAdoo. That puts us at 52. And then you have to consider the guys since then, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Tim Duncans, the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryants, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Dwayne Wade, Allen Iverson, Ray Allen, like guys like that. Like, you have to consider all of those guys, right? So when you really think about it, Carmelo Anthony's probably more like a top 75, top 80, maybe player. I don't know how impressive that is, especially when you consider that when these 2 guys were drafted, we expected some Magic versus Bird type stuff. Carmelo does a year in college, wins a national championship, is the best player in college basketball. LeBron's tearing it up as a senior. They get drafted, and we think these guys are going to be forever etched with one another. First couple of years, people tried to compare him a lot, and then LeBron just took off, and Carmelo stayed put, and we had a career full of mediocrity. He was okay in Denver, won a scoring title. Or did he win a scoring title in New York? Something like that. But he didn't really have any playoff success. He made 1 Western Conference Finals in Denver, didn't do anything in New York, was okay in OKC, was awful in Houston, and then, settled to be a role player in Portland. So again, we look at his whole career for a guy that was supposed to be LeBron James's rival. Like, we were supposed to be talking about these guys as like this for their entire career, and we never really got that. And then again, okay, so let's say he's not a top 50 player. To say he's a top, 10 small forward? Maybe he's a top 10 small forward. Maybe he's not. We know for sure he's not among the upper echelon. Like, he's not up there with LeBron, Larry Bird, Kevin Durant, Dr. J, John Havlicek, Elgin Baylor. He's no Scottie Pippen. You can throw Rick Barry in the mix. James Worthy's in the mix. Dominique Wilkins is in the mix. Guys people don't talk about, like Adrian Dantley. What puts him over Paul Pierce? Like, when you look at the totality of Carmelo Anthony's career, is he really over Paul Pierce? Paul Pierce got a championship. He got a finals MVP. Kawhi Leonard is coming. Like, when you really start naming off names, Carmelo Anthony might not be a top 10 small forward. So I think when it's all said and done, we look at his whole career, he's probably going to be more of a 10 to 15, somewhere in that range, small forward, and maybe a top 75, top 80 all-time guy, which isn't bad. In the history of the game, to say you're still amongst the greats, that's cool. But for the kind of expectations we had for Carmelo Anthony coming into the league, supposing to be LeBron James' rival, being in that tier of players, that echelon of players, he never measured up to that. Wouldn't say he's overrated because nobody rates him that high, but he definitely underachieved, and to me, his career overall was underwhelming. Listen, thank y'all for tuning in with the Sports Reporter Without Pay. Y'all like it, follow, share it, and I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.